Joining us from Washington is Peter Roff, the contributing editor at Newsweek. Peter Roff, hello, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us. So, how do you assess these tariffs added on Canada from the United States? Where are we with the relationship between Ottawa and Washington?
Hello, it's good to be with you again. I think the tariffs that Ottawa was hit with, are representative of the degradation of the U.S.-Canadian relationship that started with Premier Trudeau and have been made worse as the new Prime Minister has apparently decided to join the global group of Trump bashers. And I suspect that President Trump takes that personally, especially since the guy wouldn't be Prime Minister if it weren't for Donald Trump.
Okay, he's part of the global group of Trump bashers. But hasn't he been, I mean, they had a reasonable conversation, or perhaps their relationship was going to be slightly rebuilt when they met at the White House. And really, how else was Mark Carney meant to react to President Trump when he was talking about making Canada the 51st state?
Well, there are, in fairness to President Trump, there are some Canadians who I think would rather their provinces be run from Washington than Ottawa in federal terms. Particularly some of the Western provinces. But, whether that was meant seriously, which I doubt, or meant as a joke, our two countries, Canada and the United States, are heavily intertwined economically. And they can either cooperate or they can battle. And the Canadian tariffs on U.S. goods, 200 or 300% on poultry, for example, just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And if the Canadians don't want to budge on those kinds of things, they've got to expect that at some point, America is their biggest customer. And the president has just made it more expensive to buy their products. So American products from other countries besides America, Canada, may become more attractive. This is going to have an impact on Carney's economy.
Of course, fentanyl was mentioned as one of the reasons, but it seems that fentanyl is a scapegoat, really, because not a lot of fentanyl comes through the Canadian border, does it?
I'm not up to date on the latest numbers, but my general impression is the problem is more severe on the U.S.-Canadian border than people tend to realize. Certainly, the bulk of the problem starts in Mexico. Of course, the U.S. Postal Service may be the single biggest importer, smuggler, transporter of fentanyl into the United States. And that's something that's for another discussion, but something that has to be discussed, that they're simply using the mails to ship in fentanyl. They're using mails, they're using private shipping companies, just by sending boxes. It's small, it's easy, it's compact, it's light. It's not like people driving trucks full of human beings across the border in the middle of the night. But getting back to the U.S.-Canada position, I think that for Trump, some of this is personal, that he doesn't regard the new prime minister as a friend, an ally, but as somebody who kind of looks down his nose at the president of the United States and consequently looks down his nose at the United States. And so, something has to be done to shake his lapels and get his attention. And one would think a 35% across the board tariff would do that.
Now, already Canada's auto industry is under a 25% tariff. Is this going to be difficult for supply chains, especially between Ontario and Detroit?
In the short term, yeah. Uh, but the Trump wing of the GOP anticipates that the auto companies will move more of their supply chain manufacturing back into the United States. They'll move it back from Canada. They'll move it back from Mexico. They'll create jobs in America. And the so-called hollowed out, musty, rusty middle will experience revival. I don't think that happens. I think there's a manufacturing renaissance ahead for America, particularly as the energy and AI revolutions start to peak. But it's going to be new technologies. It's not going to be old industrial processes that are coming back. It's going to be new technologies that I think are going to drive new manufacturing. And I don't know necessarily that means that the states that lost jobs to places like Kentucky and Georgia and Florida and Texas because the taxes were lower and the business climate is better are going to see those jobs come back.
And when it comes to the relationship between Trump and Mark Carney, well, first of all, the Prime Minister says the negotiations will continue. Does he have any cards left to play? And what do you think he could do to repair the relationship? Does he need to take a more sort of Starmer approach and just be a little bit more, a little bit more supine?
Well, I don't think it's fair to suggest that Carney and Starmer are in equal positions. I mean, Starmer went to Scotland hat in hand, and he was lucky that Trump saw him. But Trump sees that as an opportunity because he knows that Starmer is a desperate man. His premiership, his prime ministership is failing. His party is collapsing, as the Tory party did before when they were last in power. It looks like at the next election, if the things continue as they are, that Nigel Farage may get to kiss the ring and form the government in some kind of Tory reform coalition. Carney's in a much better position politically as a newly elected prime minister, and his poll numbers are good because Canadians are cheering his decision to stand up to Donald Trump, to not cave into him. But that's not something that that's not something that he can continue without cost over a long period of time. Canada is a good customer for America, but America is a much better customer for Canada. And we can go longer in a high tariff environment than Canada can. They will start to feel the pinch sooner. And so I don't know what Mark Carney does to repair and restore the relationship, but he needs to put that top or near top of his agenda if he wants to survive.
Yes, it's coming to that Buy Canada, Buy Canadian movement that has taken hold since, during the election campaign, really, to elect Mark Carney, really a grassroots campaign to Buy Canadian. Could that kind of consumer nationalism, you say that the United States could hold out a lot longer, but will it meaningfully dent US exporters, would you say, or is it just a matter of symbolism?
There's a lot of stuff that America sells that the world wants. So we have lots of options. We can also buy in a lot of places. When you've got the largest or second largest industrial economy in the world, you have those kinds of options. There's more flexibility available to America than there is to Canada. And there is, of course, the problem of transatlantic shipping or trans-Pacific shipping. There are all kinds of impediments in the trade, just in the natural trading process that America can overcome more easily, I think, than the Canadians. And Trump is probably identified what those are, where the pressure points are, and he is ready to apply pressure if he has to. Remember, he wants a deal. He wants a better deal. Nobody thought he could do better than NAFTA, and he got the U.S., Mexico, Canada free trade agreement, which was better than NAFTA, at least better for the United States. He still thinks that by holding his cards close to the vest and applying pressure to Canada, he can get Carney to give. Now, does this create a sense of Canadian nationalism, Canada standing up to Big Brother USA? Yes, it does. And that lasts as long as the economy holds. If the economy in Canada starts to slip, then it's not clear that national pride takes precedence over being able to put bacon and eggs on the table for breakfast.
Well, when it comes to Mexico, Trump spared Mexico and he praised its cooperation. What is it? What's the deal there with Mexico? Why is he being soft on them? Is it about immigration?
I think that well, it's partly about immigration, but I think that surprisingly, given the ideological gap between them, that the Mexican president has actually been a partner with the Trump administration on controlling the crossings across the border, on combating the fentanyl, the sex traffickers, the other border-related problems. And so Mexico gets rewarded. Mexico plays ball. Mexico is a good partner. You treat your good partner better than you treat your bad partner.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Peter Roth. It's been great to talk to you once again. Thank you for coming on the program and enlightening us on this trade clash.